Under the bright lights of the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, a new name was being whispered through the aisles: Saúl Canelo Alvarez, the 19-year-old red-haired prodigy from Guadalajara, stepping into the United States spotlight for the very first time. The crowd hummed with a mixture of curiosity and anticipation, sensing that something significant was unfolding. This wasn't just another prospect being showcased on a major card. This was a young phenom carrying the hopes of a nation that had produced icons like Barrera, Morales, Marquez, and Sanchez. Across the ring stood Jose Miguel Cotto, the proud Puerto Rican veteran, brother of the great Miguel Cotto, hardened by years of professional battles and no stranger to danger. His demeanor was calm, his eyes focused. He knew what the boxing world expected of him: to test this kid, to shake him, to expose him if he wasn't ready. And in this atmosphere of simmering tension, as the announcer's voice echoed through the arena, both fighters stepped forward, carrying not just experience and youth, but identity and legacy. The story waiting to unfold was one of fire meeting iron, raw talent colliding with gritty experience. The bell rang, and in that instant, the air thickened with drama. Canelo flashed his speed, crisp jabs, and patience, but Cotto came forward with a veteran's confidence, timing an early left hook that snapped Canelo's head and sent a wave of shock through the crowd. The young phenom stumbled, suddenly humbled, suddenly human. The crowd gasped. Commentators questioned if the matchmaking was too aggressive. In that moment, the fight transformed from a showcase into a trial by fire, and what was supposed to be a smooth introduction became a test of survival for the teenage prodigy. A crisp right uppercut snapped Cotto's head back, and the crowd roared as momentum began to shift. Still, Cotto's experience kept him in the fight. He crowded Alvarez, smothered his rhythm, forced him into uncomfortable exchanges. And yet, with every minute passing, the young Mexican's confidence grew. His punches landed with increasing authority. His footwork became firmer. He began reading Cotto's patterns: the dip, the lean, the lunge, and then came the moment, a perfectly timed counter right hand that sent Cotto's glove to the canvas. The first knockdown, the first flashpoint in a fight that had suddenly turned from a test into a coming-of-age performance. The crowd felt the tide turning. The commentators praised the young fighter's adjustments, and Alvarez, once shaken, now stood steady, studying Cotto with emerging control. The battle had only just begun, but the teenager was showing he belonged in the spotlight. By the fourth round, the fight had taken on a new rhythm. Cotto still pushed forward with the stubborn determination of a seasoned fighter unwilling to yield ground to a teenager. But Canelo, calm, calculating, and increasingly confident, was beginning to take command. He stood his ground more often, firing precise combinations that split Cotto's guard. The uppercut became a constant weapon, slipping between Cotto's gloves and snapping his head upward again and again. Body shots thudded against ribs, hooks dug into the midsection. The pace of the fight grew faster, heavier, and more punishing. Yet through it all, Cotto kept pressing, his chin tough, his spirit unbroken. He threw combinations, moved forward, tried to bully the young fighter against the ropes. But each time, Alvarez responded with crisp counters that broke through the pressure. Observers ringside began speaking of the youngster's poise, his patience, his maturity. As the 7th, 8th, and 9th rounds approached, the fight had become a showcase of Canelo's evolution within a single night. The early crisis had hardened him. The middle rounds had sharpened him. And now, in the late rounds, he was asserting complete control. Cotto marched forward on instinct and pride alone. His punches lacked their earlier snap. His feet lagged. His guard loosened. But still he refused to back down. Alvarez exploited every opportunity. His counter right hand landed repeatedly. Fast, direct, punishing. His left hook smashed into the ribs. His uppercuts tore through the center line. The punches thudded with precision, not recklessness. The commentators marveled at the young man's timing and composure. They spoke of his ring IQ, his patience, his maturity beyond his years. And yet, even as Canelo dominated, Cotto kept firing back. Small flurries with little power, but enormous heart. He absorbed punishment, but tried to make it competitive. Every step forward made the audience respect him more. But the balance had tipped too far. Alvarez's shots grew more accurate, more damaging. The ropes became Cotto's constant companion. He covered up, leaned back, tried to roll with the punches, but the storm would not end. Canelo's combinations rained down, right hands over the top, hooks around the guard, uppercuts up the middle. The young fighter sensed the finish. The crowd sensed it. The referee, Tony Weeks, watched with growing concern. Cotto was still standing, still trying, still throwing. But the return fire had no sting. His legs no longer reacted the same. His eyes blinked with each impact. Canelo stepped forward with cold efficiency, unleashing sharp, snapping combinations that lifted Cotto's head again and again. The drama was thick. The beating had become one-sided. The referee took a step closer, studying Cotto's reactions. The end was near. And then, with just over a minute left in round 9, the inevitable unfolded. Canelo Alvarez unleashed a series of clean, unanswered rights, each one more precise than the last. Cotto's guard sagged. His legs stiffened. His return punches floated without conviction. Alvarez advanced, landing heavy combinations that snapped Cotto's head back violently. The arena erupted, half in awe, half in concern. Tony Weeks leaned in, eyes sharp, watching every twitch of Cotto's body. Every delayed reaction. Another right hand, another uppercut, another hook, and still Cotto refused to fall. But his resistance was now only symbolic. He was absorbing punishment with no chance of turning the tide. And then Weeks saw what he needed to see. A fighter fighting only on instinct, no longer protecting himself intelligently. At 2:51 of round 9, he stepped between them and waved his arms. The fight was over. The TKO was official. The crowd roared as Canelo lifted his gloves, a 19-year-old who had just passed the most important test of his young career. As the announcement echoed through the arena, the winner by TKO, Saul Canelo Alvarez, the magnitude of the moment settled in. This was more than a win. This was the night the world saw not just talent, but resilience. Not just speed, but composure. A fighter who had been rocked early, tested repeatedly, pressured relentlessly, but who adapted, overcame, and dominated. In that ring, surrounded by cheers, cameras, and flashing lights, a star was born. And on the other side stood Jose Miguel Cotto, battered but respected, a warrior who had given everything he had, and who had played a vital role in shaping the rise of one of boxing's future legends. The fight ended with applause for both men, one for his victory, the other for his courage. And in that moment, the boxing world knew Canelo Alvarez had arrived.